Hello everybody and welcome back to Culz Book Reviews. Today we are diving back into the world of graphic novels, comic books. Now on our channel, at least our new channel, we've only touched upon this section of reading once with Road to Perdition. Though on our old channel we did cover quite a few different ones. And so today I figured we would jump into All-Star Superman, mainly because recently James Gunn announced the resetting of the DCU, or what people had called the DCEU at the time. And while talking about upcoming movies, including Superman Legacy, the artwork for All-Star Superman was shown. And then later in a tweet, James Gunn clarified 4 graphic novels or comics that really kind of inspire perhaps the tone, and we'll get into the story of All-Star Superman. I don't think the story of Superman Legacy. And so I figured, hey, why not check it out? Why not check out all the comics that were shown by James Gunn? And maybe at some point we'll do a ranking of all of them and tell you at least what I think were the best to the worst. Maybe they're all good. Maybe some are better than the other really good ones. So we'll see. But since Superman Legacy is the quote-unquote starting point of the DCU, I figured why not start with All-Star Superman. Now, as you can see by the cover here, mine's just the regular edition. I know at least this picture is the one that was shown by James Gunn, though in the tweet it's the expanded Ultimate Edition of All-Star Superman, but it's the same story, so I figured since this is the one I owned, it would work. As you can see up top, says All-Star Superman. You see the DC Comics logo, and then there's a quote by Entertainment Weekly: "A stirring, mythic, emotional, resonant, and gloriously alternative take on the Man of Steel." Which, right here you can see Superman just sitting up, I'm guessing just on clouds is kind of how I interpreted it, because you can see Metropolis down below, looking awfully New York City-like. Right here you see Frank Quitely, Jamie Grant, and written by Grant Morrison, which we've previously touched upon their work in A Serious House on Serious Earth, Arkham Asylum, on our old channel. All-Star Superman, and on the back it just continues that picture again, just sitting up on the clouds, and right there just some quotes, and right there's the ISBN. So obviously this is a graphic novel, so there's tons of fantastic art. This really is a beautiful looking graphic novel. Sometimes I'm not a huge fan of different art pieces. Sometimes even if the storyline's really good, the art can, just make it okay. And vice versa. Sometimes art's really good and the story's not. But with All-Star Superman, I think both the writing and the artwork is fantastic. I mean, honestly, the art looks beautiful, as you can see right here. I mean, just look at how beautiful this picture looks. I mean, you can even see just feel the sun and the warmth of this picture. Now, the writing as well is really good. I'm not really a huge Superman fan. I know a lot of people are, and if you are, that's totally fine. Just a lot of times Superman's almost what's called a broken hero, because I mean, he's really super powerful to the point there's really not a lot of consequences or feeling of dread that he might not save the day. I would say most of the comic books, outside of perhaps Death of Superman and some other ones, he really does feel it's Superman, he'll figure it out, right? So I think that's where this story definitely sets it apart from other ones and makes it one I really, really enjoyed. Now, spoilers for ones that haven't read it, definitely go read it first. It's not, obviously because it's a graphic novel, it's not a super hard read. But this story was originally 12 issues, but it follows the last year of Superman's life. Because in this story, he is dying. He, is going to save people, flies way too close to the sun, and then his cells get, I guess, a form of cancer and start, dying. And so he has the 12 Feats of Superman, where he's doing all these things. He time travels, he makes a serum so Lois Lane could actually get some of his powers and for a day, and they can fly around and save have this date where they're saving the world. And I'm trying not to spoil too much, but yeah, I mean, you see a lot of the big names in Superman lore. Like I said, Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen's here. You see Perry White, Lex Luthor, Bizarro. There's a whole time where Superman's on the Bizarro world. And honestly, this does feel very James Gunny. if that makes sense. As far as like some of the villains or just like the colors or just what's going to happen and kind of the extravagance of the comic, like I can definitely see James Gunn taking some inspiration. Obviously, because they're rebooting the DCU, I don't think they're going to adapt this like word for word. Like, I don't think Superman's going to die in his first movie. I mean, I guess they could hand it off to John Kent, but it would seem awfully weird to just do that. I mean, at that point, why didn't you just bring back Henry Cavill? I think they just didn't bring him back because they're going to go a bit younger. I don't know how much younger. And they want to just set it apart. I mean, obviously, we're going to have some confusion as far as which properties get to carry over. And obviously, with some of the ones coming out this year, Aquaman, Flash, maybe those ones don't carry over, but you don't also want to say that now because then people aren't going to go see it. So tonally, I think this is definitely a high point for Superman. Like I said, I'm not a huge Superman comic reader, and this one was actually quite entertaining to me. I actually really enjoyed reading this one. There felt like there were stakes, and there was that countdown the whole time. Like, you felt like the end was near. Superman's trying to get through and do all these things. He actually gets to meet his younger self when he time travels to go see, Pa Kent. There's some underground reptilians. Lex Luthor, put in this plan to kill Superman. And at the time, like, Clark Kent's there and he's trying to, like, interview Luthor. And the dynamic between Clark and Superman is definitely more, like, in line with, like, maybe even Christopher Reeve's Superman, where it's like Clark is definitely, he's tripping over things, he's messing up a lot, and so people are like, no, there's no way. And I know that's like one of the big digs on Superman is like, how would people like not notice it's Superman, right? But I remember at one point, I think it was like BVS or maybe the original like Justice League, as people call it, came out. Henry Cavill was like down in Times Square with like all the not posters, but they're electronic posters around Times Square showing his face, like no one was recognizing him. So yeah, I mean, I think it's highly possible, especially when they were actually going in and trying to show the difference between Clark and Superman and just how he carries himself when he's Clark and when he carries himself as Superman. So I definitely thought that was interesting there. And like I said, just some fantastic pieces. Like there's Luthor, there's the Bizarro world, obviously. Superman's losing strength. Pretty iconic picture of Lois and Superman kissing on the moon. I mean, that definitely seems like a monster you'd see in a James Gunn movie. I really enjoyed it. I don't want to say too much because it was good. And I think you guys should go at least try to support, the comic book writers and pick it up. This one's relatively easy to find. Barnes & Noble, at least every Barnes & Noble I've been to recently has had it. Our local comic book shop actually had this one as well as like the deluxe edition. So if you live in Colorado and you're near Cass Rock or Parker, head to Hollow Justice Comics. It's in Parker, Colorado, but they have a ton of good stuff and definitely recommend them. They're always super nice, super helpful. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this. I don't want to get like too in depth. Maybe when we do our breakdown, I will. But this was fun. I really enjoyed it, and I think overall, I'd probably say 8 out of 10. Like it was really good, and I recommend it. So we'll be back. I'll touch upon some of the other comics that were either shown or actually shouted out by James Gunn. Perhaps at the end I will rank them by my favorite to least favorite. Maybe this one will go up. Right now, I just kind of finished reading it, so it's still kind of fresh, and your mind always changes. But for more Culz book reviews, click that link to your left. For more about what we're doing here at Culz Paranormal, click that link to your right. And don't forget to hit that like and give us a subscribe. And let us know, have you read All Star Superman? And what's your favorite Superman story?